Hello everyone, this is Powell Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a serious situation unfolding with a tornado outbreak, a widespread flash flooding setup, a major snowstorm, and then two Arctic air masses. Happy New Year's Day, everyone. Hope everyone had a safe and happy New Year's Eve last night. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you that helped me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And we got a lot of situation unfolding today, guys. It is serious stuff. If you haven't subscribed already, just all you have to do is hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell when I get notified. I am going to be going live for this event later on this evening, probably around 7 o'clock. But let's delve into the details and let's talk about what's happening right now, because we've got numerous flash flood warnings already in place for Kentucky. There's already a serious flood threat that's happening right now in the state of Kentucky, but we've got that colder air to the north, where the snow and the falling rapidly temperatures are falling in the midsection of the country, and when it's already down to 30 degrees in Oklahoma City. And there's the storms that fired just kind of northeast of Dallas. They're going to be getting its act together, but there's the warm sector down here. That is the greatest concern of a potential tornado outbreak unfolding today, and a continued dangerous flash flooding setup. So let's take a look at the overall hazard map, because it's busy. It is really busy. We've got numerous winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. All these areas you see in purple here, that is your winter weather advisory. Typically that implies about 1 to 5 inches of snow that's going to be falling in the areas of the Texas Panhandle, portions of Oklahoma, as well as Kansas and Nebraska, northwestern parts and central parts of Missouri here, Iowa, going into Illinois, and then southern Wisconsin, and also central and southern Michigan here. And then all your winter storm warnings, that is about 4 to 8 inches of snow for a good pocket of those areas that shaded in pink. And then you got all the freeze warnings down to the south with that cold air that's following. And typically when this is your first freeze, so that's why they're putting out the freeze watches down here to the areas of the south for Houston, all the way to Corpus, and even South Texas. So it's completely cold air to follow. But that's the dangerous setup today over the Ohio, parts of the Ohio Valley and Kentucky and Tennessee Valley. It's dangerous flash flood watches, and there's all those numerous flood warnings happening right now with these training convective banding thunderstorms that we're going to be talking about with very high wind potential. And these are going to be fast movers. I'm talking 70 miles an hour. So you're going to have little to no warning. But here's the latest 24-hour rainfall already. I mean, all these areas in purple here, you can see the convective nature of this banding that's already happening. And that's what's going to be happening over the next really 36 hours as continues to move across. So it's going to dump a lot of rain, guys. It's already dumped 4 inches, right? And this thing is just getting going. So that and floods is the #1 killer of all weather phenomenons. This is some serious stuff, guys. So I mean, the best information I can tell you is just stay home. I mean, it's going to be a not so good day in a good chunk of the country that we'll go over here. So we've got moderate risk. I mean, it's a moderate risk. Look at the real estate it covers from northern Arkansas, pretty much the entire state of Kentucky. That's where they're getting the numerous flood warnings today. So it's fairly rare to see a moderate risk, especially for such a widespread area. High risk only encompasses about 4% times. So yeah, I mean, typically when you get a moderate risk, I mean, you're talking potential 6 to 10 inches potential rainfall in some of these areas. So that is the dangerous setup on top of the very strong thunderstorms and high winds and tornadoes that they're going to get later on today and this evening. So let's kind of delve into the details and zoom in of the latest Storm Prediction Center as of the 7 a.m. advisory. And they've got those storms really kind of initiating where they are kind of right now, where I showed you in Dallas, and they'll really start to get its act together out here in East Texas once they hit Shreveport, into Little Rock, get into Jackson, get into Greenville. once they hit getting into Tennessee and then going into Nashville and parts of Kentucky, that's the dangerous setup of the most widespread, numerous, very high wind and tornado potential, and that will just extend all the way into portions of the middle, like places like into Atlanta, and then further down to the south as well. So it's a pretty big area of real estate to get that numerous widespread thunderstorms and strong tornado potential today. Here's the latest tornado potential of this HAST risk. This is another huge area. It pretty much encompasses that entire area of that enhanced risk. So there's still a possibility it could go up to a moderate, right? But hey, moderate or not, it's going to be a dangerous day. That just increases the probability of something happening, right? There's strong potential, very strong tornadoes with this. You're talking anywhere in this hatched risk area, a potential to see an EF2 tornado, and these are going to be QLCS tornadoes. So, these are going to be kind of long tracking. We got a low level jet that's going to really amplify and pump all that moisture, that water vapor from the Gulf of Mexico, and really, look at the look at the negative tilt with this massive lift. This jet's going to be screaming at 60 to 70 knots. These storms are going to be moving at 60 and 70 miles an hour at times. So that is a dangerous setup with tornadoes potentially on the ground and potentially long track tornadoes at that. So definitely stay weather aware and anywhere in these areas in the southeast today, and have your safe plan in place and take action immediately. Because even though it may look that far away, it's going to be knocking on your doorstep in no time flat with these fast movers, and they're going to be racing off into the northeast. So let's take a look at the shear. The shear is very high. It's a pretty big, it's kind of very rare you see yellows like this over a big chunk of the southeast. So that is the dangerous setup, as that low level jet really cranks into the warm sector, the very high dew points in this area, and they're going to really start to get their act together once we get into the late afternoon and especially the overnight. And that's a nocturnal setup as well. These are nocturnal tornadoes, long track fast movers. So if all possible, just stay home in these areas and keep her to all the watches and warnings. And like I mentioned, I'll be on live here about 7 o'clock covering the event throughout the night. But the tornado parameters are very high as well. They keep increasing, guys. They're up to 8, right? So they keep increasing the potential. It still amplifies in intensity as more of the data kind of fine tunes as this kind of gets closer. So that is a serious threat unfolding. And here's the setup and how this is actually going to take place. You're going to have these little bubblers, or these isolated renegades, are going to be popping ahead of the main line. So these are discrete potential supercells are going to be popping up ahead of the main line. And then you're going to have the quasi-linear setup as well, with that convective banding, training, flash flooding, and then long track potential strong tornadoes moving 60, 70 miles an hour along this sector as it races from, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, going into Kentucky, and this will eventually shift off into the east and southeast into the overnight hours. And then, of course, you got that snow on the northern side with that major snowstorm on the northern side, and then in the middle you're going to have an icy setup as well. So there's areas that are getting ice this morning, and that as that Arctic air will fall on the backside, you'll have that ice to deal with as well. So as we zoom out and take a look at tomorrow morning, you can see the band moves all the way to central Alabama, getting into parts of central Georgia here, gets into the Carolinas, gets into North Carolina, with that band and isolated supercell thunderstorms just continue to train across and dive down to the southeast. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center has moved their outlook down to a marginal risk, down, further off to the southeast. into the Florida Panhandle, into central Georgia, southern Georgia, as well as the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina, and parts of Virginia could see some of those strong to severe tornado type setups as they continue to push across. As we look into that Saturday time frame on the northern sector for your winter setup, there's the heavy snow band. So you're going to have that convective banding setting up on the north side of the deformation zone. That's where you're going to be seeing those 1 to 2 inch snowfall rate potential at times. And that swath where the winter weather advisory is 1 to 5 inches, where you've got a winter storm warning, 4 to 8 inches. And then within that winter storm warning, you could isolated pockets of 8 to 12 inches is not out of the question with this setup. So, but then you have the Arctic air. So as we wake up on Sunday morning, that Arctic air goes all the way through Oklahoma, gets into North Texas, gets into Central Texas, and then you have that warm sector. So where you're warm still on Sunday, that's where you're going to have the severe weather threat until you get this Arctic air mass to push through. But there's going to be a second lagging system that's going to be trailing behind the first system. And when you start to look at some of the high resolution, shorter range models, you start to pick up on this subtle hints of, I think once it's going to be setting up over Texas. I don't think there's enough lift to overcome the dry air into the Arctic air mass as this continues to push across. But once again, as it taps into some of that warm, again, Gulf moisture, some of those higher dew points still, you still could see some back end snow potential. So this is definitely not out of the question. Some of the higher, the shorter range mesoscale models are actually picking up on this. You could be seeing a little bit of snow on the backside in northern parts of Mississippi, parts of western Tennessee here, getting into parts of Kentucky on the backside of this system. Is probably not out of the. I'm not expecting much. I'm just, it could be some flakes falling out of the skies, a dusting, possibly up to 1 inch. But as we get into Monday, there's the cold air. That's why they've got the freeze watches and warnings down place all the way into South Texas, because it reaches all the way there, all the way into Louisiana, Mississippi, goes into parts of Alabama here with all those below freezing temperatures. So you can definitely see that's a huge change of what you've seen as of late. There's the actual snow on the NAM, picking up on some of that snow that could fall. Again, if it does fall, this is just, again, maybe a dusting, 1, possibly 2 inches, maybe, in some of these areas as this secondary low-level system. You can see it originates in Texas, originates in the Panhandle. This is the back half of it. Doesn't have much moisture to work with until it gets into portions of the southeast. So yeah, it's probably not out of the question to see some snowflakes or two, or maybe a dusting, or even up to possibly 1 or 2 inches in some of these areas. So definitely be weather aware for that, and don't be surprised if it does happen as well. So, but we also got the icy setup as well on that middle northern side. You could see some ice in Oklahoma and Missouri, going into Illinois and Indiana and Ohio, parts of upstate New York as well. So on the north, you get the snow, in the middle, you get the ice, and then on the south side, you get all the rain and the high winds and unfortunately the tornadoes. There's the major snowstorm that moves across. There's your 1 to 5, 4 to 8, and then isolated banding of 8 to 12 inches at times, potentially over the next 1 to 3 days from that system that's coming in. And then you got another Arctic surge. So we try to warm up by Wednesday, but we have another Arctic surge that's coming down by Thursday time frame, and this pushes down to the central states and then pushes east as we go into next weekend, with the west actually warming up to above average temperature anomalies by then. So we'll be going over more detail at that after the severe weather threat unfolds today. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do share this video with your friends in social media. Let them know of all the potentials out there and the dangerous situation is going to be unfolding later on today and tonight. And stay tuned tonight to about 7 o'clock and on and through the evening for my live coverage tracking the severe weather threat as they happen. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do hit the subscribe button if you hadn't already, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after storm.